When Kate, who is on the verge of giving birth, is wheeled in, she leaves a bloody trail in her wake. She screams as she gives birth in the delivery room, and then learns to her horror that the baby has passed away. Kate is heartbroken as the nurses present the infant to her. In amazement, she tears and yells. Kate suddenly awakens and finds it was all a dream. We observe Kate taking her prescription the following day as she visits her therapist, when we learn that she recently experienced a stillbirth. Kate also says that she and John have discussed adopting a child, but she's not sure if she's ready just yet because she's been having trouble staying sober. She is reassured by Dr. Browning that she should not be concerned. Later, when picking up her deaf child Max from school, Kate appears to be distracted and slams on the brakes, narrowly escaping a serious collision with a truck. Daniel, Kate's son, is first introduced to us when she gets home. The couple decides to adopt a kid that evening following some assurance from John in an effort to try to fill the emptiness left in their lives by the loss of their daughter Jessica. The pair makes the decision to visit St. Mariana's orphanage the next morning. Sister Abigail welcomes them and guides them as they explore the area. John returns from the restroom and overhears a little girl singing. He follows the sound and finds Esther, who quickly captures his attention. After speaking with Sister Abigail, they decide to adopt Esther, who they later discover was born in Russia but moved to America when her family perished in a house fire. Also, Abigail tells them that she is a princess and that they have never had any issues with her. The couple decides to adopt young Esther after hearing this. They bring Esther back to their house after a few days so she can meet the rest of the family. She immediately appeals to Max and Barbara, John's mother, who is also her grandmother. Daniel, on the other hand, is wary of her and grows envious when he notices that she is getting more attention and welcome gifts than he is. Later, we see Barbara and Kate discussing an incident that happened with Max at the lake when Kate was severely intoxicated, while Daniel goes to the treehouse with his pals. We observe Esther standing over Max that evening as she sleeps in her room and giving her an odd look. Esther interrupts Kate and John while they are having a passionate moment in bed by bringing Max and asking if they may sleep in their bed since they are terrified of the thunderous storm outside. They are soon joined by the girls in bed, and Esther curls up close to John. The following morning, as everyone is getting ready for class, Esther enters the house wearing an antique dress. At school, Brenda, a girl, starts making fun of Esther's appearance and bullies her. Later that day, Kate becomes enraged when she sees the kids playing on the frozen lake. Max and Esther search the woods for Daniel, who is using his paintball gun to practice shooting. He shoots a bird, and as it writhes on the ground in agony, he starts to feel guilty. The bird is then mercilessly killed by Esther using a rock, as if it were nothing. Later that evening, as Kate is putting things away, she discovers Esther's hidden Bible and discovers a photograph of a man within. Esther is still treated unfairly at school, and one day Daniel knocks her over in the hallway. Brenda knocks the Bible out of her hands and sends it flying into the air as she goes to get her belongings. Brenda pulls Esther back from her collar as Esther tries to grab the pages, which infuriates Esther. Later that evening, Kate makes an effort to encourage Esther by discussing what transpired at school. Kate displays the photo of Esther that she added to their family scrapbook. Esther wants to know more about Jessica. She is taken to the White Rose Garden by Kate. She explains to her that she thinks Jessica is still alive as long as there are roses in the yard. The following day, Esther, Max, and John are at the playground when their neighbor Joyce approaches them and begins to flirt with John. While Max is watching, Esther overhears the talk but is sidetracked by Brenda's entrance. When Brenda reaches the top of the slide, Esther quickly approaches her from behind and pushes her off, shattering her leg. Later that evening, John and Kate attempt to speak with Esther about the incident, but to their surprise, Max supports Esther's denial, explaining that she slipped. Daniel is shown becoming enraged and cursing at Esther as they start to pray. In response, John locks up the treehouse later that evening as a form of retaliation. When Esther informed Kate she didn't know how to play the piano, Kate was shocked to discover Esther playing it remarkably well the following day. Later that evening, she discusses it with John, who doesn't give it any thought. They have a heated argument as the situation heats up. He is informed by Kate that Esther accused him of flirting with the neighbor in the park. Then, we find out that Kate has trust issues as a result of John cheating on her 10 years ago. Max mentions how Max's life has previously been in risk due to Kate's drinking issues. After seeing them argue, Esther can be seen grinning to herself in the pan shot. The following day, Sister Abigail visits them to discuss Esther. The youngster fell and was wounded with a pair of scissors at her old school, and Esther's prior family perished in a house fire, she tells Kate and John. Kate is concerned about this, but John again dismisses it. They choose to take her to visit Dr. Browning, but Esther has been listening in on all they say without their knowledge. Afterwards, Esther rushes to young Max and persuades her to provide a hand. They discover the safe containing the gun and the keys to the tree house. To make sure Sister Abigail doesn't return, they hastily move to the bridge. Esther pulls Max into the middle of the road as she drives up, prompting Sister Abigail to swerve and crash. Abigail exits the vehicle while feeling disoriented in order to assist Max, who is sobbing on the road. Esther suddenly appears from behind and swings a hammer at her. They push her body down the slope when she requests Max for assistance. Abigail is still alive in some way, and as she looks up, Esther mercilessly kills her. They both go back to the treehouse and bury the bleeding garments, along with the hammer. Max is terrified, but Esther reassures her and gives her a hug. Then, when Daniel witnesses them exiting the treehouse, we see them too. That evening, Esther enters his room and threatens to kill him if he tells anybody while holding a knife to his throat. Kate receives a call from the orphanage the following day informing her that Sister Abigail hasn't arrived, which she finds odd. Later, Abigail's dead body is discovered by the police, which horrifies her and makes her suspect that something strange is happening. She makes the decision to act independently and begins investigating Esther's past. She inquires about the orphanage where she had lived and is shocked to learn that there are no records of her ever being there. John feels Jane is overreacting once more when she discusses it with him, and the two of them start to argue. Esther informs John later that day that she believes Kate does not like her. He suggests that she give her something as a token of her gratitude. One night, Esther presents Kate some white flowers, which horrifies her when she realizes they are from her daughter's grave and infuriates her. She catches her, and the two of them start to struggle. As soon as he arrives, John intervenes to settle the conflict and informs Kate it was her responsibility. Esther breaks her own arm that evening when she goes to the garage. John is astonished when she tells him about it, and he drives her to the hospital. He confronts Kate about it when she returns home, but she claims she didn't grasp Esther that firmly. Later that evening, while she is extremely stressed out, we see Kate going to the store and purchasing some wine. She consumes a small amount before choosing to flush the remainder down the sink. Daniel drops several of his books as Kate drives the kids off to school the following morning. Esther releases the handbrake as Kate exits the vehicle to pick them up, causing the vehicle to begin rolling backwards. Kate yells as she races after the automobile, which is carrying Maximum. Fortunately for her, the car hits a clump of snow and comes to a stop. Dr. Browning pays them a visit that evening, and they talk about what transpired. John shows her the empty wine bottle, suggesting that she consumed a lot of alcohol the previous evening, and gives her 7 days to check into treatment or he will leave with the kids. Max ultimately tells Daniel what Esther did to Sister Abigail and the items they concealed in the tree house as he enters Max's chamber. Esther is listening to everything outside, but they are unaware of it. When Kate visits Max later that evening to see how he's doing, she is astonished to see Esther there with her diary. By reading it aloud, she tries to agitate Kate, but this time, Kate is not swayed. The following morning, Kate is observed searching Esther's room for her Bible. After finally spotting the word San Institute there, she is shocked to discover that it is an Estonian mental hospital when she searches for it online. The next scene shows Daniel climbing the treehouse, and he is startled to see Esther standing behind him. She starts to fire the evidence by pouring gasoline on it. She locks him inside and sets him on fire before leaving. Daniel succeeds in getting himself out the window and tries to signal for assistance. He collapses to the ground as the tree home burns. Esther smiles to herself, and she prepares to kill him with a rock when all of a sudden, Max knocks her to the ground and Kate rushes over to them. They are gathered at the hospital in the following scene, where they discover that Daniel has had a neck injury and might not remember much. As John learns what Kate has discovered, they get into another argument because he still doesn't believe her. Esther, meanwhile, moves toward Daniel's location and makes an effort to suffocate him. As soon as her parents hear the alarm go off in Max's room, they rush to him in a panic. Max realizes what she is doing and tries to warn her parents. He is successfully revived by the physicians, who fortunately arrive in time. Infuriated, Kate approaches Esther and slaps her across the face. When Kate finally wakes up after being medicated by the nurses and being dragged away from Esther, John assures her that Daniel will be okay and not to worry. He puts Max to bed when they get home that evening, and when Esther goes to give Max a hug, she removes her hearing aid. After deciding to have a few drinks downstairs, John starts to feel a little tipsy. Esther arrives downstairs while he is still there, dressed up, and makes an effort to entice him. As he notices what she is doing, he becomes enraged and tells her that he dislikes her for acting that way. He then instructs her to go upstairs and threatens to call the orphanage the following day. After requesting that John stop treating her like a child, Esther rushes upstairs and starts sobbing on the bed. In the following scene, Dr. River, a man employed by the mental institution, calls Kate and tells her that Esther was a former patient and that she is not a girl. She is in fact a 33-year-old woman with violent tendencies who has dwarfism. He discloses that she has wounds from attempting to free herself from a straitjacket on her neck and wrists. She killed 7 members of the same family, he claims, and is a very dangerous person. When Kate realizes what she is hearing, she starts to fear. She hurriedly drives home and contacts the police en route. John returns home and attempts to apologize to Esther in her room, but he is unable to locate her. He discovers her drawings on the wall to be replete with bizarre behaviors. When Esther unexpectedly stabs John as he is searching the house after the power goes out, John collapses to the floor. She stands over him and stabs him numerous times until she kills him. Esther catches Max staring at her when she looks up and follows her. Then, as she approaches the house as quickly as she can, Kate wrecks her automobile. She rushes upstairs, only to see John dead on the floor, which horrifies her. She recognizes that Max is in danger and makes a valiant effort to locate her. Kate gets shot by Esther as she moves around the house in the dark. She is fortunately grabbed in the shoulder and escapes death by hiding outside the window. When Kate notices Esther approaching Max, who is hiding below in the greenhouse, she tries to divert her attention but instead crashes through the glass directly onto Esther. Both of them are still unconscious when Kate grabs the gun and Max and heads outside for safety while Max wakes up her mother. Esther has fled the home when the police arrive, they discover. Suddenly, Esther appears running with a knife toward Kate and Maximum. Esther and Kate quarrel, and as a result, both of them tumble onto the ice lake. Max finds a way to pick up the gun and shoots, hitting the lake, as Esther begins to attack Kate, who is hurt. Kate and Esther fall into the chilly water together and start to struggle. After pushing Esther away, Kate climbs out of the lake. As she does, Esther grabs Kate's leg and begs her not to let her die. Kate looks at her and kicks her in the head one last time, breaking her neck.